For a brief while, we hung on to the memories of 2002. The parallels were going on track for quite a while. But the difference was, there was no Yuvraj, no Kaif, one of them in London, one of them just recently retired from all forms of cricket. And of course, there wasn't a start like Saurav Ganguly provided with 60 of 43 balls. So India were always up against it. Also, we mentioned biryani in the last show we had. I didn't get to eat any biryani. All I was eating was my words. The fact that we were questioning Owen Morgan at the toss. Why did he bat first? We found out exactly why. Here on Cricket Buzz Live to just review what's happened at Lord's. India losing there for the first time since 2007 in an ODI. Reviewing that, Joy Bhattacharya, Gautam Gambhir. Convincing victory for England, and I think you'll have to hand it to Owen Morgan.
Absolutely. I think we all got it wrong. I thought I was pretty much surprised that when he won the toss that he had decided to bat first. But then obviously looking at the wicket in the second innings, obviously it got a little slower as well, and Moeen was getting a bit of grip as well, so was Rashid. So I thought it was because of the slowness of the wicket that they knew that it's got to get really slow and it's got to be difficult to chase as well. So obviously we all got it wrong.
Yeah, we briefly theorized that Kuldeep and Chahal in this innings may have been more of a handful, so...
Yeah, who knows? See, the other thing I just realized was, and I should have thought of that before, Owen Morgan has been playing in Middlesex since 2006. That's his home county ground. So he's literally played there for 12-13 years. He must have seen it in a lot of conditions. Karthik used to bowl here, Murali Karthik used to bowl here regularly. So possibly he's seen what spin does in the morning and what it does in the afternoon. So that's the explanation I have for it. And I believe that that's what's given him the edge, saying that, okay, it's going to, ball's not going to come on that easily in the next part.
Let's remind you what's happened in this second of 3 one-day internationals. Sets it beautifully up for the third one. India losing the toss on this occasion, but they didn't mind what they were doing, which was chasing England, batting first, putting on 322 for 7, an unbeaten 100 from Joe Root. Perhaps not quite the strike rate he would have liked, but in the end, he held the innings together. He batted through the innings, and the talking point there was David Willey batting at number 8. 50 of 31 balls. Remember, for India, the equivalent was Umesh Yadav coming into bat at number 8. That shows the difference in balance of the two sides. India falling short by 86 runs, 236 all out in the end, dismissed off the last ball of the 50th over. We've talked briefly about this whole difference, and I think that number 8 here and number 8 there can make a difference. The depth.
Yeah, it can, but I thought that India had given up the game probably 15 or 20 50 overs to go. I thought that was very disheartening, because ultimately I think when there's a set batter in, you can't afford to be thinking that obviously we've lost the game and it's about just taking it deep as well. I would rather be 40 overs, 240 all out, rather than just taking it till the end, because when you're batting, when you're playing as a batter, I think your primary job is to try and win the game irrespective of what the situation is. Till the time it gets impossible, till the time it gets 1 over 40 runs, you've got to still keep going. Till the time it's achievable, it's your responsibility as a batter to try and win the game for your country, because you've got to realize that it's in a team sport, you're not playing for yourself, you're playing for your country, and country comes before any individual.
And that's why we kept mentioning that parallel, not because we wanted to hang on to that. India have had lots of achievements since. It was almost a turning point in 2002. We won't mention it anymore. But the fact is here, as Gautam just mentioned, 27th over Virat Kohli gets out. You're not exactly out of the game. Yes, it's a big blow, but you've lost your top 4, but there's still enough to come.
And whether there is enough to come or not, you have to try and win. I mean, that's the point he's making. In fact, interesting parallel there. I mean, you heard a few boos in the crowd, and I was just thinking back, and you know, my statistician, the Cricket Buzz statistician Deepu was also talking about it. The last time an Indian got booed at Lord's was Sunil Gavaskar in the 75 World Cup, scored 36 in 60 overs, and he said he didn't know what was happening, and that's the last time. And to hear an Indian batsman booed in today, predominantly an Indian crowd, is interesting. But as I said, it was perplexing for anyone to see it from the outside and wonder what exactly was being tried. And after that, when you saw, batsman go down, clearly he didn't want a bat or any water to drink, and obviously a message went down from the dressing room. So we had to be very, very, very interested in hearing that conversation.
Maybe he was justifying the look, the beard.
No, it's not about the individual. You should not be blaming the individual. As I just mentioned, I would rather be happy seeing India 240 all out in 38 or 39th over, still looking to win a game of cricket, rather than just taking it till the 50th over. I thought that is something which is absolutely not acceptable, because when you're playing as a batter, you got to be still be thinking in your heart that whatever the situation is, I'm going to try and win a game of cricket for my country.
More than just talking about it from a post-mortem point of view, we're going to a decider at Headingley, and I think India will have to look at these really hard.
If you ask me, yes, but then obviously India has played very good one-day cricket for a very long time. So one bad game doesn't make them a bad side as well, like how we mentioned about England as well. They played a very bad game the first one, but then they came back really strong as well. This shows that two teams are very much equally balanced and equally matched as well. And obviously England's going to take a lot of confidence from here as well. They would be thinking that if we can get a top 2 or 3 early, I think we're very much in the game as well. And that is the main reason. Had India gone down fighting, had India gone down aggressively, I think England would have had their doubts that there's still Hardik, MS, Suresh Raina to come. But if I would have been in the England camp, I would have been very, very happy with today's performance. Not the England performance, just the India performance, because they would be thinking that if we can get Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma out, I think we probably have sealed the series.
But that's exactly what I was talking about. India should at least say that, look, we have had an alarm call, a wake-up call early enough in the second match, knowing that even in our strength, which is chasing, and we saw how Virat was delighted to chase, we've come up second best.
Yeah, and also, see, my big thing is exactly what he's saying. Our top 3 are the top 3 ICC batters in the world now in this format. So what happens as a result is you have a disproportionate amount of importance given to them. But 2 things happen. A is that the rest of your side doesn't get that much opportunity to bat. So they are not that seasoned as your top 3 is. Secondly, therefore, the balance that England has overall, you don't have that kind of balance. And that's interesting. Therefore, we are a side who will win big very often. Okay. But we could lose big as well, because that's clearly what's been shown, that when that top 3 goes cheap. The other interesting thing is, look at this batting order, and I can't remember the last time an Indian batting order, ODI batting order, didn't have a single 50. Have a look at that, your highest score is 47. One more interesting thing, lot of starts, and normally the kind of quality batsmen like Rohit or Virat, they convert starts. Today, for some reason, they couldn't convert their starts.
And we talked about this briefly. We talked about the fact that, India have got 100 from their top 3 in the last 9 matches, except for that 119 run chase. And also in the last 20 games since 2017, India have only failed chasing 5 times. So,
yeah, they've been very happy chasing. They've been a good chasing team as well. But one thing I would like to say, that obviously I don't agree a little bit with Joyda, that I think most of these guys have been playing IPL they've played throughout the season as well. MS has been in very good form. He played the entire IPL season. Hardik's been playing the entire IPL season, and so was Suresh Raina. So I would not agree that obviously these guys have not been in the same rhythm as well. I thought that all these guys were in very good nick during the IPL as well. It is just the mindset. It's about believing that I can win a game of cricket from any position. As I just said, that England would be a far happier camp than India, what India was in the first game, because I thought that England would be thinking that India is a very top-heavy side. It's just about 2 or 3 batters, or probably
top-heavy is the word.
Probably 2 batters as well. They might not be thinking too much about Shikhar Dhawan as well, that he might get off to a good start, but he's not someone who converts as regularly as Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli does. And KL Rahul is in a very good form, so they would be thinking that get Virat and Rohit, we are very much in the game, and probably we might seal the series as well.
But a word about the England bowlers. I mean, they had to still do the job despite the fact that the wicket may have helped a little bit. Have a look at the England bowling, and if you talk about wrist spin, we were only talking about Chahal, we were only talking about Kuldeep Yadav. Guess what? Adil Rashid, not a bad effort. 10 overs, 2 for 38, 29 dot deliveries. For India, 150 dot balls were played in that innings.
Yep, and Moeen, big wicket. Moeen got Virat. Virat was probably the most important wicket in the game. And he bowled really well within his limitations, bowled well. Gautam, you were discussing that Moeen's just bowling that much faster.
Look, more than Adil Rashid, the alarming thing is that the amount of dot balls we've played against Moeen. Adil Rashid is a wrist spinner. He can take the ball both ways as well. But Moeen is someone who's pretty much just a traditional off spinner as well. He doesn't have a dusra. He doesn't have a knuckle ball as well. So the disturbing thing is that the amount of dot balls we've played against him, and at one stage he had bowled 7 overs for 18. So that is something which the Indian batters needs to look at as well, whether it is Suresh Raina who was batting there, or MS Dhoni, or Virat Kohli as well. I think you can't let someone like Moeen Ali bowl 10 overs for 40. You got to target your bowlers. You got to be thinking, even if you don't get them 10 over 70, you should be able to get them get 10 over 60 for probably one. But I thought that those dot balls played a huge difference, and that had built a lot of pressure on the team.
You can't have Gautam turn around and say, see, batsman play a normal off spinner and allow him to get.
No, but generally, I think at one stage, you don't expect someone like Moeen Ali against Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni, and Suresh Raina to bowl 7 or 8 overs for 20 odd runs. I think only in the last over when MS had hit him for 4 and Hardik had hit him for 4. Before that, 9 overs for 30 runs. That is something, I think that is where England has sealed the game as well. Because Moeen was a very crucial factor in today's game as well. Had India attacked Moeen, England would have to bring the fast bowlers back as well, and then India could have taken them on as well. But I thought that this 10 overs 42, irrespective of whether he's taken 1 wicket of Virat Kohli or not, but this spell was a turning point for England.
And they held them back. The comparison between the way Indian spinners were used, 9th over, Chahal came in, 11th over, Kuldeep came in, exactly the same as the previous game at Trent Bridge. In fact, the pattern continued with Kuldeep taking a wicket of the second ball of his spell. Yeah. But the difference was they held back Moeen Ali and they held back Adil Rashid as late as possible. And I think it proved to be good in the end.
Obviously, Moeen also knew that this pitch is going to get more and more help to the spinners the more it went on. So he tried to bring them as late as possible, and our batsmen helped because we sort of started giving away wickets in regular intervals. So he said, so we never really pressed on the accelerator. So he had an opportunity to let the game drift a little. So when he got his spinners on, they were getting a bit from the pitch.
And of course, the quicker bowlers just picked up the spoils there. You might look at the, without knowing the situation, if you look at the scorecard years later, you'd say, Plunkett ran through India. He did nothing. It was the spinners who held them back, and he just picked up some bonuses. I mean, well bowled, but it was bonuses.
Yeah, true. I think one point which you just made was that Morgan was able to hold Rashid and Moeen back was the reason, because India had let Moeen bowl his 10 overs. Had India attacked him as soon as he was into the attack, obviously it was difficult for them to finish off his 10 overs as well. But then, as I just mentioned, that Moeen sealed the game for England. Obviously, when you look at the figures, you would say that it's 10 overs, 42 for 1. But actually, if you ask me, it's Moeen Ali in the bowling department who's won the game for England.
So often, scorecards don't tell the whole story, and I think this is one of them.
Absolutely. There are so many examples of this. And one guy gets 3 rubbish wickets, or garbage wickets, what I call. Last over, batsman going to hit, trying to score runs. You get a few garbage wickets and your analysis suddenly turns around. It's very dangerous to look at scorecards.
Imagine if Plunkett had even picked up a 5th wicket
and
there was no Joe Root 100. Imagine the innings had been constructed by lots of 40s and the odd half century here and there. You'd be tempted to think of Plunkett as a man of the match, but you'd have to hold yourself back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it happens all the time in cricket, I think. And pressure is always, it's never normally in both ends. It's pressure from one end, wickets from the other. It's rare that your guy who's getting on pressure is also giving you wickets. Very often the releases on the other side, they get the spoils of what's happening on this side.
Well, Virat Kohli just after the match, in the post-match interviews, said that the wicket was still good to bat on, but the fact that they lost wickets early in that top order, and I guess admitting almost they're slightly top-heavy, cost us the match in the end.
Look, I think as a losing captain, you have to say something. And I've been in that situation many times in my life as well, where you got to say something, and you might just say that we've lost too many early wickets and we couldn't capitalize on the starts and all that stuff. But the bottom line is that we gave up the game too early as well. As I just mentioned, that when Virat got out, we were still very much in the game as well. When he was chasing 8 runs per over, that's not too difficult a task, to be honest, especially with 5 fielders inside. But then from 7.5, 8 runs, if you take it to 15, obviously that shows that you've already given up the game as well. So I'll keep repeating the same thing what I've been trying to say as well, that I would rather been all out in 35th or 36th over than just taking it till the 50th over, because it was just about making your entire batting look very, very ordinary as well.
It's a tough job, I know, being there as a losing captain. As you said, you've done it a few times, you've had to say the right thing. Did you sometimes have to think of, anticipate the harsh questions? Did you know what you were going to say? Did you just go with the flow?
Say the truth. Absolutely. Don't try and play around with the words as well. Say the truth, accept that you've not played well, and give it to the opposition as well. Sometimes what happens is it's difficult for a captain to give it to the opposition as well. The moment you say the truth, obviously that's what shows your character as well. The bottom line is that it's the middle order which has not fired. I think you can't always be dependent on Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and Shikhar Dhawan as well. It's the responsibility of all the 7 or 8 batters, 7 batters who are playing for the country, And if you don't believe that you can win a game of cricket for your country, then you don't deserve to be part of the playing 11.
Didn't expect any less from him.
Didn't expect any less. But also look at it one day. Virat has actually called it. He didn't turn around and give a pitch as an excuse saying the pitch wasn't good enough. He said the pitch was good enough, which meant that by inference, if I say the pitch was good enough to bat on, there were batsmen left to do it. He didn't say the pitch was unplayable or anything like that. So clearly he's not taken away the responsibility. He might be saying something else, but he's told you that the pitch is good enough to bat. In which case you have, as he said, finishers. You have 3 finishers in that lineup. They should be at least trying to finish. You know, you can win, you can lose. You will be trying.
And another thing is, we've been talking about this as well. If you keep looking to score runs, if you stay positive, looking to score runs, looking to attack the bowler, I think that's when you'll realize that pitch is far more easier as compared to when you start getting defensive, start looking to just survive. Everything starts happening. I think that first ball that turned off Moeen Ali, and then everyone got into the shell as well. But you still got to be positive, thinking that it's just that one ball. One ball doesn't make him a 10-over bowler as well. So I thought that just after that, everyone got into their shell, thinking that, oh, it's turning, it's gripping, it's coming slow as well. Try and be positive and see how things change. I think that same wicket will start looking absolutely flat as well.
And interestingly, that first ball, even they said on commentary, could have maybe just hit a little spot on the pitch, because the next 5 didn't really turn. So it was all in the mind.
Yeah, I thought Virat was playing well. I thought Virat was still looking to rotate and looking to be positive, looking to try and knock around. But then, as I just mentioned, that 7 overs, 18 for 1, or 8 overs, 24, 23 for 1, I think that is something which is very, very disturbing as well. Someone like Moeen Ali. Had it been someone like Rashid Khan, Adil Rashid, who are the wrist spinners, can take the ball both ways and are attacking options, but you don't expect Moeen to do that against Indian batting. They can do it again. He can do it against Australia. He can do it against South Africa as well, but not against someone like Suresh Raina and MS Dhoni, who played someone like MS, who's played more than 300 ODIs, and Suresh Raina, who's been there for a very long time. That you don't expect. You still expect them to try and take him on and decide what is the right time to take him on, and whether you let him bowl 10 overs, or you try and be absolutely positive and let the fast bowlers come back.
He said Australia, I didn't. But let's just touch on MS Dhoni for a bit. We were all climbing on him, and I think Virat was very quick to defend him, saying we all had a bad day. Whenever MS does something like this, they jump on. Let's look at the positive. Let's look at the positive to come out of this. 10,000 runs, it's an achievement you have to salute.
Yeah, and 10,000 runs, the interesting one is if you look at that list of people who have got more than 10,000 runs, even for India, I think it's Tendulkar, it's Dravid, it's Ganguly, the 3 before.
Up the order.
Yeah,
mostly.
all up the order. All up the order. I mean, the fact that he's got it down
Across
the order
board.
and in that many. Look at just 273 matches. It's not that he's taken a lot of matches to do it, considering he's batting at 6, 7, sometimes at 8. He's batted at 2 at 3, but not very often. I mean, really, only the start of his career has he batted that high. So, you know, that's amazing. And his economy, sorry, not economy, his average, batting average is still, I think, 50 plus, which is a ridiculous average for a person. I mean, how many players have that? There are about 10 players in national cricket who have that.
For the longest time, there were only 4, with Ryan Tendulkar at the top of the list, but we'd probably discount him there, much as we like Tendo. But the next 3, I think it was Dhoni, it was Michael Bevan, and there was Hashim Amla. Yeah. These were the only 4 who had averages of 50 plus for the longest time.
Yeah. Now you have Ambati Raidu there also.
Yeah, now of course a lot more people have been added to the list, and
Virat, of course.
Virat was one of the newer entrants, the later entrants. The other factor that he also mentioned in between talking about Dhoni and his batsmen was the bowlers, because he said, yes, of course we did miss Bumrah and Bhuvaneshwar, but it's good to have tested the next level of bowlers, because these are the kind of times they get tested. Might have had a bad day, may not have delivered the goods as such, but this is the times they get tested.
I think more Bumrah, if you ask me. If the ball doesn't swing, I think Bhuvi becomes too one-dimensional as well. But then obviously Bhuvi is a far better death bowler than someone like Umesh and Siddharth Kaul. But with the new ball, obviously if it's swinging and if it's something, if the wicket is pretty much helpful, then obviously Bhuvi becomes very dangerous. But I think Bumrah is a big factor. Bumrah is a big factor only from a point of view that that he gives you the surety in the first 10 and he gives you the surety in the last 10 as well, which are very, very crucial in today's one-day cricket. So what happens is then you can use someone like Kuldeep and Chahal in the middle as an attacking option as well. But with this current bowling attack, obviously Virat sometimes do think that he might use Kuldeep in the last 10 as well, so that when the opposition look to go after him, he can take some wickets as well. But the only reason is because he feels that his fast bowlers are not able to contain the batters in the last 10 as well. So I think Bumrah plays a very, very important role in one day side. And I think we keep talking about Indian batters. We keep talking because India is a batsman obsessed country, that if everything boils down to batting and stuff. But I think Bumrah is as important as someone like Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma in the one day team.
Spot on, but India know they don't have the option of Bumrah. The option they do have is of Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who's been training, trying to get back to full fitness. And I think had India won the series 2-0, they wouldn't have bothered him. Now that it's 1-1 going to Headingley, they'll probably try and see how fit he is and they'll want him back. So that's the change you'd probably want back in for the.
That's the change. I'd really like to go with Gautam's suggestion and go and see Dinesh Karthik batting at 5 or 6 as well. And that's something you can do there. Because see, look at it that way. Akshar Patel does not find a place out here because you don't know where to place him. As an all-rounder, he's just not a good enough batsman to force his way in. Shardul Thakur over Siddharth Kaul is one of 6 or 1/2 dozen. You could try him probably. He's a bit faster, but you know, if you've given Siddharth Kaul, you probably need to give him a bit of a run at it. I would say if Bhuvaneshwar doesn't come back, the only try I would make was to try and see why not try Dinesh Karthik.
Akshar conveys messages well, though. That's what he did today to MS Dhoni. So he's doing that pretty well. But would you agree there? If you had obviously Bhuvaneshwar, you try and get him in, but possibly Dinesh Karthik in?
Depending on his fitness as well. I would not try to risk him just for a one day game because there's a 5 test match series and Bhuvi is going to be a very crucial factor as well, especially with the Duke ball. So what the team management would be thinking is rather than risking him in a one day series, and if there's something happens to him, that they don't want him to be out of the test series as well. They feel that he's going to be a very, very important member of the test 11. So that's the reason. But I would rather play Shardul Thakur for Siddharth Kaul. He's got a bit more pace, he's got a bit more variation as well, and maybe with the new ball he might end up giving you 1 or 2 wickets with that outswing as well. So rather just try Shardul Thakur. You've seen what Siddharth Kaul gives you, and if you like how Virat Kohli and everyone is saying that they're looking to experiment, rather give him a go in English conditions and see what he delivers.
Even with a 2-week break till the first test match at Edgbaston?
Look, depends on the injury as well. Sometimes if you aggravate something and if you try and rush a player into the side too early, and if there's something happens to him and if it becomes a longer injury, as I just said, that they would not want to risk him, because unless and until they feel that okay, Bhuvi is not that important in Test cricket, they would have they've already decided on their first 3 seamers, and if Bhuvi is not part of that first 3 seamers, then they might just push him for the one day game. But if they feel that Bhuvi is there in the top 3, I would still see if he's absolutely 100% fit, because one day cricket demands a lot as well. It's about absolutely fit in the field as well, and then bowling in the first 10 and bowling in the 10th overs is a completely different ball game coming as compared to test matches as well, because in test matches you sometimes to just try and bowl those length, and even if you're 120, 125 and try and see off that spell, it's okay. But then in one day cricket you can't just be up 50 or 60%, you got to be 100% all the time, because one day cricket is very ruthless, especially against this England batting. You got to be absolutely on the mark, otherwise they can hurt you very badly.
Yeah, we've heard maybe a possibility of some niggles for Jason Roy and Johnny Bairstow, but we won't delve on that too much. Morgan didn't even mention anything about it. So England really have no problems with the momentum of this victory going to Headingley.
Yeah, I think they'd be telling themselves, we had a bad day. We proved that it was just a bad day. We are back to our 300 scoring ways. Our bowling is able to defend at 300, and once again the important thing is they'll be saying that if I get early wickets, we have a chance. And hey, look at this lineup also. I mean, who would you change? Really, everyone has done their job, and even Alex Hales right now with Root scoring the way he is, I would hesitate to change anything out here.
Mark Wood's done enough to keep his place ahead of Jake Paul, presumably.
Yeah, there's no particular reason, though he bowled just 5 today, but there was no he didn't look particularly off color or anything, or he wasn't taken off. They just had more variety, they had an opportunity, they got 5 out of Stoke, so it didn't matter. The moment Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid managed to bowl their quota of 20, you knew that Mark Wood and this thing, Ben will not finish.
Well, all in all, it sets it up beautifully. That's what we'd want from a neutral perspective, of course. Some people would have loved it to have finished 2-0, get that 10th consecutive bilateral series victory, but it'll have to happen up at Headingley. It'll all to play for there. But we're going to shift focus slightly now from cricket to football. No, I'm not yet talking about the World Cup. I'm talking about the joy factor, because there was a football twist in the question. So, Joy, take it away.
Okay, here goes. So the question was, and it had to do with the Manchester City team and what the Manchester City team had in common with the Melbourne Renegades with the Big Bash League, and the answer is both play at the same stadium, not at the same stadium, but the stadium named the Etihad Stadium. It will be called the Marvel Stadium from 2018 onwards, but it used to be the Etihad Stadium, so both home grounds were at the Etihad Stadium. And I think we've got a lot of correct answers for this one. For once, everyone is saying, good question, nice, easy question. They like it.
So are the people who are answering saying it, or is it
only the people?
Because there are hardcore quizzers who'll actually get an answer wrong and they'll say good question because it was just something you enjoy.
Yeah, but no. Also, this is not the hardcore one, because the hardcore quizzes would look at that as, why are you asking us stuff like this? This is what we learn in nursery, so I don't even want to go to hardcore. They're actually much more hardcore than me as well.
Well, all right. So since we're in football mode, even though this is Crickbuzz Live, and we're going to be back for that deciding one-day, which is going to be at Headingley, Leeds. It's back to a later time. It's a day-night game, though I'm not sure what day-night really means in England, because you really struggle for the lights to completely come into effect even when you're playing the last ball. But we still need to talk about a prediction for the big World Cup final, since we've been referring to football throughout these shows. And we do have a divided house here. We have a very clear Croatia supporter, and I'm not talking about someone who's just picked on them because they've reached the final. He's been supporting them from day one in the tournament, and I have to admit, I have been supporting the other side from day one before the first kick was started. And Joy, you're leaning towards France?
I'm leaning towards France. Again, United supporter, liked Pogba, liked Mbappe. Remember, I was looking after the Under-17 World Cup, and one of the stars of the 2015 Under-17 World Cup was Kylian Mbappe. His first real performance internationally was at Chile, so I've been following his career from them. I like Pogba. Now, Kante is a player who does a lot for me, because, unappreciated, short player, not good enough, big heart. I like players like that. So that sort of combination gives it something for me. I have something to root for, at least. Players I like.
Okay, hold your thought right there, because in all the excitement of talking football, some poor fellow who's got an award for answering the Etihad Stadium for the Renegades. Go ahead. Who's the winner?
Yes, Roger Sen. Roger Sen is, I haven't seen this name before. Roger Sen, and I wonder which part of it.
I wonder if it's a disgruntled tennis fan.
No.
I'm just wondering, because of course when you talk about football, tennis can't be too far.
I think he's a tennis fan, and I think his first name is not Sen, but he's not Roger, but he's just a huge he's a Federer supporter. I think that's the story. And he can write into us and let us know.
He had time to have changed his name after the quarterfinal, but never mind. A loyal supporter is always a loyal supporter.
Yeah, I can't see it as Novak Sen.
Now we are coming to Novak Gambhir here, because I know apart from that. So are you looking at a Yugoslavian double, Serbia and Croatia, over the weekend?
I hope so, fingers crossed. I think Croatia is going to be a bigger one than Djokovic, because I think that is something, I have a feeling that they're going to create history.
Well, we certainly don't mind if you're a neutral supporter. I think everyone's rooting for a brand new winner in any sort of tournament, and Croatia is the one who will be first time winners. France have done it before. I'm going to, of course, stick to them. 2-1 France is what I'm saying. What's your score prediction for Croatia?
2-1 Croatia.
2-1 in reverse.
He also always has to have, because Croatia, you have to score against them, and then they have to equalize and then win it.
Oh, you have to come.
That's how they do the game.
Yep. And your score prediction?
I'm saying 2-0 France.
2-0 France, not even allowing the Croatians to score. Well, of course, we'll have to come back and find out. All this is recorded. It's kept for archival purposes on Crickbuzz Live. We will be back to look back on the weekend of tennis, football, and of course lots and lots of cricket. That's going to be pure focus on Tuesday with the decider at Headingley. That's when we go on air at 4:30 in the afternoon Indian Standard Time on the 17th of July to decide the winner of the one-day series. Can India make it 2 out of 2 at the start of the Indian summer? Big thank you to Joy Bhattacharya. Big thank you to Gautam Gambhir. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Keep all the tweets coming in, keep all the feedback coming in, and we'll give you much more. Crickbuzz Live is where we are. Crickbuzz Live is where we will be. Back on Tuesday.